Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today's video is a bit special because I am taking you through the entire journey of this watercolor portrait. Portraiture in watercolor can be intimidating because the medium is so fluid and unforgiving. But there's a certain magic in how the colors bleed together to create skin tones. Before the first drop of paint touched the paper, everything started with the sketch. For a portrait like this, the likeness is all in the proportions. Before I even think about color, I spend a lot of time on the lay-in. I started with very light, loose circles and lines to find the tilt of the head. If the basic structure is not right, the most beautiful watercolor in the world won't save the portrait. I always begin my mapping out the central line of the face from the forehead down the bridge of the nose to the chin. This ensures that the features are not sliding off the face as I draw. I started with a very light, diluted wash of yellow ochre and vermilion for the skin's undertone. You have to leave the highlights, like the tip of the nose and the forehead, almost white to keep that 3D look. For the shadows under the chin and around the eyes, I didn't just use black, I mixed burnt sienna with a touch of ultramarine blue. This creates a living shadow that looks more natural on skin. The sage green and deep red of the saree provide the weight of the painting. I used the weight on dry technique here to get those sharp edges on the golden border. For the pearl necklace, I used tiny touches of grey and left the white of the paper to show the shine, and I used a little bit of white on it. The final 10% of the painting is where it all comes together. Adding the bindi and the dark details in the hair gives the piece its final character. As I was finishing the eyes, I felt a sense of peace. There's a point in every painting where the person on the paper starts looking back at you, and that's when I knew it was done. Watercolor teaches you to let go of control. You can't command the water, you can only guide it. I hope this process encourages you to pick up your brushes and try a portrait, even if it feels scary at first. One mistake beginners often make is trying to get the darkest skin tone in the first wash. Remember, watercolor is about transparency. I build the skin in 3 or 4 very thin layers. This gives the portrait a glow from within that you just can't get if you use thick paint right away. Wait for each layer to be bone dry before adding the next. If the paper is even slightly damp, your shadows will bleed into your highlights and you will lose that crispiness in the nose and cheekbones. The eyes are the soul of any portrait. Notice how I didn't use pure black for the pupils. I mixed a chromatic black using indigo and Van Dyke brown. This makes the eyes look deep and liquid rather than flat and cartoonish. Don't forget the catch light, the tiny white dot of the reflected light. It's the difference between a portrait that looks alive and one that looks like a statue. To get the texture of the fabric, I use a dry brush technique on the gold border by using very little water and frayed brush. I can mimic the shimmer of the zari work without having to paint every single thread. For the deep red of the saree, I used a weight on weight technique for the large areas to keep the color smooth, but then switched to weight on dry for the sharp edges of the pleats. Watercolor is unpredictable. If a drop of dark paint falls where it shouldn't, don't panic. Take a clean damp brush and gently lift the pigment. It's like an eraser for paint, but you have to be quick and gentle so you don't tear the paper fibers. Notice the area around the hair and the neck. I deliberately let the background color bleed slightly into the hair. This is called a lost and found edge. It makes the painting feel more artistic and less like a cutout photograph. My biggest tip is not about the brush, it's about your mindset. Don't be afraid to fail. Every bad painting is just a step toward your next masterpiece. I spent hours on this portrait and there were moments I thought I ruined it, but if you keep going, the water usually finds its way. Now I have to tell more about the sketch. You have noticed I am using a very light touch with my pencil. In watercolor, the paper is fragile. If you press too hard, you create grooves in the paper that paint will pull into later, leaving dark, unwanted lines. I treat the sketch like a ghost. It's there to guide me, but I want it to disappear once the paint is applied. I prefer using an HB or 2H pencil. It's hard enough to stay sharp but light enough to be lifted with a kneaded eraser before I started the first wash. I spent the most time on the eyes. I am not just drawing eyes, I am drawing the shapes of the shadows around them. I mark the distance between the eyes. Usually the space between them is exactly the width of one eye. This is a rule of thumb that helps keep the likeness realistic. For the nose, I avoid drawing hard outlines. Instead, I sketch the planes, the sides, the bridge, and the tip. This helps me understand where the light hits and where the shadows will fall when I switch to my brushes. The sketch is not just for the face, I also map out flow of the sari and the placement of the necklace. For the jewelry, I just draw small circles of placeholders. I don't want to get bogged down in detail yet. I just need to know where I need to leave the paper white for those highlights. One tip I always give: squint your eyes while looking at your reference and your sketch. It helps you stop seeing eyelashes or lips and start seeing shapes and values. If the shapes match when you squint, your sketch is ready for paint. Thank you so much for watching my process today. If you enjoyed seeing this watercolor portrait come to life, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more art videos. It really helps me keep creating these long-term tutorials for you. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram to see the high-res scan of this piece. Until next time, keep sketching, keep painting, and I will see you in the next video. Happy painting!